everyone, what is up? It is me, Ewan from What Culture Star Wars, today with another installment of The Mandalorian Season 2 Ups and Downs, this time for Chapter 16, aka The Rescue, aka the Season 2 finale of The Mandalorian, which is... it's really emotional. It's been a long journey, and here to make things even more emotional is Grogu himself, because this is definitely the real Grogu. It's not fake. They're real. Yes, that's right, it's finally here. I can't believe it's over. The Season 2 finale of The Mandalorian dropped today with Jon Favreau back handling writing duties and Peyton Reed returning once again in the director's chair. There is a lot going on in this episode, and having spent the past week living in total fear because, you know, Star Wars likes to do dark and sad things in its second installments, I can certainly say the whole episode kept me in suspense, and fear. Also fear. Also, major spoilers ahead for this episode, you have been warned. Chapter 16 starts with Din and Cara Dune intercepting Dr. Pershing before they recruit Bo-Katan and Koska Reeves to add to their rescue party. Needless to say, they get to Gideon's ship and a whole lot of stuff goes down. The end result is a mostly satisfying conclusion to The Mandalorian second season, and one that packs a heck of an emotional wallop at that, but there were maybe a couple of things here and there that I didn't think worked, and left me sort of weirdly mixed on the episode as a whole. But whatever, we'll get into that later. I'm Ewan, you're watching What Culture Star Wars, and here are 6 ups and 3 downs in The Mandalorian Chapter 16. First, the ups. Number 6. Seeing all the Mandalorians together is ridiculously cool. Although it's a bit weird that Axe Woves is literally nowhere, it was pretty great to see all the Mandalorians together in one scene. The episode as a whole was pretty light on comedy, which came as a surprise to me given Peyton Reed was directing once again, but seeing Boba and Din step into that backwater cantina and both doing the classic Western stare down thing was endlessly amusing. We also get to see the classic Mandalorian gauntlet ship again, which is always a great thing to see, but the main attraction is of course seeing all the characters talking and getting to know each other just a little better, even if it does have some confrontation. There's that classic factional tension that's been a part of The Mandalorian since forever, and while it is interesting to see that conflict unfurl and the tensions there are between Boba, Din, and Bo-Katan and her Mandalorians, I did think that maybe Bo-Katan's characterization fell off as a whole. I'm not too sure I really buy her degrading clones when they helped her win Mandalore, but there could be something else going on at play. We know Boba Fett's reputation precedes himself given he helped the Empire, and also because Jango Fett wasn't well liked by the Mandalorians as a whole, but yeah, it's just something to come back to later. Either way, it was great to see all of them together, even if Boba does exit stage left prematurely. Number 5. Boba Fett doing Boba Fett stuff. Big fan of how me giving an obligatory up to Grogu in every single episode of The Mandalorian slowly evolved into it being for Boba Fett, but what can I say, man? Temuera Morrison is great, and I love seeing him as Boba Fett. While he doesn't deploy his seismic charges this time around, see, I am learning, he does get to show off all his skills in the Slave One, and it was pretty funny to see him toy with those TIE fighters to get the distraction needed to get the Lambeth shuttle into the light cruiser, only to see him turn around and just go, and just blow them up anyway. That was great fun. Morrison's Boba has been a revelation this season, and the best part is there is more of him to come. Number 4. The Dark Troopers were terrifying. The Dark Troopers here are every bit as terrifying as you remember them from the old Jedi Knight games, and maybe even a little bit more. They have to be deep-cooled so as not to waste power, and there's a great race against time involving Din trying to shut down the doors before they can be activated and get out. One trooper does manage to get out though and proceeds to give Din the thrashing of a lifetime. Like, I am seriously concerned that Din may have concussion after this. I mean, I know that Beskar is like impenetrable, but still, you see his head go off that wall a bunch of times and concern. Thankfully, he uses the Beskar spear to deal with the trooper after literally everything else in his arsenal doesn't work, but dear God, these things are definitely the most terrifying weapons in the Empire's arsenal since, like, the bloody Death Star. They are awful. They're like the Terminator, but in Star Wars, and that is a great combination, and I'm so glad we've gotten to see it. Number 3. Din dueling Gideon. Yeah, Yeah, we all knew it was coming, but it definitely lived up to the hype. Din makes his way to Grogu, and who else is there but Moff Gideon? I love the exchange the two share here. Gideon looks like he's going to bargain with Din. He can have Grogu so long as Gideon gets to keep his darksaber, as in Gideon's own words, he has all he needs from the child. It's great to see that Din doesn't really care about the saber at all. He isn't drawn to its power and just wants to rescue his child. Of course, Gideon takes the opportunity to double-cross Din, as we all knew he would, leading to the duel with the Beskar, and I just really enjoyed this sequence. It's not a duel we're really used to because neither combatant in this scenario is familiar with their weapon of choice. Gideon took the darksaber from Bo-Katan but hasn't used it in combat as far as I can tell, and of course Din himself only just got the Beskar spear. They're both dueling with Mandalorian weaponry but don't know how to use it, and it comes off in the duel. Number 2. Luke Skywalker's Rogue One moment. Right, so obviously this was the big holy moment of the episode. Just when everyone thinks all hope is lost, with the Dark Troopers bearing down the blast doors ready to pummel them down and make it to the bridge, an X-Wing shows up, and you can tell from Grogu's reaction that it's the Jedi he reached out to in Chapter 14. No other Jedi flies an X-Wing, so of course it had to be Luke Skywalker, and boy does he get time to shine. Decked out in all black and brandishing his iconic green lightsaber, Luke makes quick work of all the Dark Troopers in a direct and clear homage to Darth Vader's massacre scene at the end of Rogue One. He reveals his hood, and it's none other than a de-aged Mark Hamill in the role. It's always great to see Hamill back in Star Wars, and while the facial technology isn't as good as the one seen in Rogue One, I did enjoy seeing Luke, and in retrospect, it really couldn't have been a different Jedi who would actually train Grogu. There are some downsides as to how the rest of his appearance plays out for me, but overall, it was just really cool to see Luke in this part of the timeline. And number 1, the Book of Boba Fett. Okay, so I'll get to the emotional stuff involving Grogu and Luke and Din in just a sec. Of course it's a down, how else could it be? But I have to talk about the post-credits scene first. We're quickly taken back to Tatooine. In a mirror image of Leia's entrance in Return of the Jedi, when she's disguised as the bounty hunter Boushh, we see Fennec Shand enter Jabba's palace and dispatch the Gamorrean guards at the staircase entrance, revealing that none other than Bib Fortuna is in Jabba's throne. Boba then enters and blasts Bib to smithereens before sitting on the throne, all while his glorious theme plays overhead. We get a nice fade to black that says the Book of Boba Fett, with a release date coming in 2021. I have so many questions. Is this the rumored Boba Fett spin-off we've heard so much about? Or is this literally going to be the 3rd season of The Mandalorian, given Din Djarin and Grogu's arcs have kind of been resolved? I'm leaning more towards the spin-off option currently, given that we have a lot left to do in terms of Din and the Darksaber and that unresolved tension with Bo-Katan, but either way, I need to know. It's so cool to see more Boba Fett in Star Wars in 2020. I mean, yeah, I've just really been won over by the character and can't wait to see where he goes next. And now for the downs. Number 3. Is this really how it ends for Grogu? Okay, so putting genuine criticism aside for just 1 second, I think we can all agree that Din saying goodbye to Grogu was pretty heartbreaking, and in that sense, it more than merits a down. It's totally fair to say this is a great ending for Grogu in that he's learned to get over his own attachment, if that's what you believe at least, but at the very least, seeing Space Dad lose Space Wizard's son is a pretty sad note to end on. As for my overall feelings in regards to Grogu going off with Luke to the Jedi Temple, look, we all knew this could probably happen, and at this point in the Star Wars canon, it's not too sad a note to end on. However, we are all burdened with the knowledge of foresight, and we know that Luke's experiment with the Jedi Temple does not go well at all. In the moment, it might make for an emotionally happy farewell, seeing Grogu vibing with R2-D2, but then you remember, oh yeah, all that death. Will we see Grogu again? Honestly, I don't know. This little fella survived 1 temple massacre, so there's nothing to say he couldn't do the same thing yet again, but there's already an element of tragedy to this ending that I'm struggling to personally reconcile with. The core of this show has always been Din and Grogu, and while I know we have so much left to resolve with the Darksaber and Bo-Katan and Mandalore and whatever else, I feel like Din will be missing a part of himself from now on. That may add something to his character, but this ending is still incredibly bittersweet given what comes next. Number 2. The action was a bit hit or miss. I can't quite put my finger on why the direction of this episode just didn't really gel with me, but generally speaking, I think it might just be because I'm not a personally big fan of when Star Wars devolves into lots of corridors and shooting. The action tends to be quite repetitive, as it was in Chapter 12, and while Peyton Reed does add the occasional flourish here, that bit with Koska and the tripwire where she uses her jetpack as well to take down that stormtrooper early on is really cool, a lot of the times it did kind of feel very boring and almost static. This really doesn't matter too much when we have those awesome moments involving Luke and Din and whoever else, but equally it does kind of grate me just to see the same old blasting segments over and over. And number 1, Bo-Katan's characterization was really off and contradicts Star Wars Rebels. Right, okay, so let's talk about Bo-Katan. I mentioned earlier on in the review that Bo-Katan's attitude to Boba Fett was a little bit weird, and I kind of want to expand upon that point in greater detail here. While yes, I know that Boba's reputation kind of precedes him, and he willingly collaborated with the Empire at multiple points over the course of the Galactic Civil War, it did feel kind of really weird for me that the one thing that Bo pointed out with Boba was that he was a clone, given that clones helped liberate Mandalore. Yes, I know the clones were also involved in the subjugation of Mandalore straight after, but it felt like a weird thing to focus on. If you were going to admonish Boba for anything regarding his Mandalorian armor, you wouldn't really do it with their ancestry. You'd probably point towards the fact that they haven't conducted themselves as a Mandalorian, and yeah, it felt like a weirdly low blow for Bo. A weirdly low blow for Bo. There we go, it rhymes, I have nothing else to say on the issue. But the main thing that really weirded me out with Bo-Katan in this episode was the whole stuff involving the Darksaber and the tension between her and Din and Gideon regarding who gets to wield it. Now, anyone who's seen Star Wars Rebels will know that Bo-Katan never defeated anyone in single combat to get the Darksaber. She received it willingly from Sabine Wren. Sabine first took the Darksaber from Maul's lair and then kind of won it properly in a duel with Gar Saxon, but because she didn't feel as though she could live up to the responsibility of uniting all the Mandalorian clans against the Empire, she gave it to Bo-Katan because she was a competent military strategist and a great spokesperson to unite all the Mandalorian clans together. Bo was reluctant at first to take the Darksaber, but then accepted it, and the only reason why I can think she's being a little bit loopy about this is because she's insecure that she's never fought someone for it, and she also lost the Darksaber in her possession to Moff Gideon. Either way, it still feels slightly at odds with her character, especially since she had no qualms before in accepting the Darksaber from a willing ally. Again, it might be a minor nitpick, I don't know how anyone else feels about Bo-Katan's characterization in this episode, I just know, to me personally, it felt a little bit off. Either way, this was an amazing season of The Mandalorian, and even though I do have some personal kind of hang-ups about this episode in particular, I still really enjoyed it. It was a great finale, and I cannot wait to see where everything goes next. And those were 6 subs and 3 downs in The Mandalorian Chapter 16. What did you think of the episode? Let me know in the comments below, and please don't forget to go like the video if you enjoyed it, and to subscribe to What Culture Star Wars, because I don't know if you haven't noticed or anything, there is loads of Star Wars content coming in 2021, new TV shows, new books, new comics, and maybe even a few video games depending, we don't know yet. And once you've done that, please be sure to head back on over to whatculture.com where you can find more content like this in the written word, and if you want to find more of me, you can do on Twitter at @YouInRuinsThings. That's all for now though, take care, and may the Force be with you. Bye!